News from across the Federation, spanning the region and covering the globe. This is the Kyssfm SKN News Now Morning Edition, your one true source for news. And now your presenter.
Today is Friday, 16th February 2018. I'm Ebony Brandon. These are this morning's top stories. Nationally, police say the man who attacked a tourist on Valentine's Day was tried and convicted the same day. Internationally, a new study links processed food to cancer. And in sport, a beer producer has donated a sled to the Jamaica women's bobsleigh team. We also have today's weather forecast and carb update. Now for a look at the news developments in detail. In one of the swiftest executions of justice in the Federation, the young man who assaulted a female tourist on Wednesday after attempting to rob her has been arrested, found guilty, sentenced and jailed. On Valentine's Day, Australian visitor Catherine Macumbi was walking along Hosfords Road when she was accosted by a young man who tried to take her bag. She resisted. Her assailant, later identified as 19-year-old Akeem Sage of Upper Thibu Avenue, then punched her in the face and ran off. Macumbi sustained injuries to her face and was assisted by persons who witnessed the incident and later transported to the JNF hospital for treatment. Sage was apprehended by authorities shortly after. Police say that Macumbi was scheduled to leave the country yesterday. However, in an extremely fast carriage of justice, Sage was taken before the Bastille Magistrate Court on Wednesday afternoon, just hours after the attack. He pleaded guilty to the offense of wounding and apologized to the court and the defendant. He will now spend the next 8 months in prison with hard labor. Commenting on the speed with which this was handled, police say where there is cooperations, crimes like these and others can be quickly detected and criminals can be caught, charged and convicted. In other news, the public outcry over the health risk to the Labour Department employees, led chiefly by Dr. Terence Drew, has resulted in a Ministry of Labour Department decision to relocate its Church Street offices. A 2017 Bureau of Standards report indicated that there were high levels of carbon dioxide present in the building during peak hours. It was later discovered that this was the result of a faulty air conditioning system. A number of persons employed at the Department of Labour reported feeling ill, many of whom received medical leave from local doctors as a result of their symptoms. During the Minister of Labour, Honourable Vance Amory's presentation to the National Assembly in January, he indicated that the ministry's initial response to the report was not to remove staff from the unsafe environment, but to advise them to open windows to improve ventilation. In contrast, the management of the National Drug Council, who shared the faulty air conditioning unit with the Department of Labour, opted to remove their employees from the unsafe environment. The ministry now says although measures have been taken to correct the situation in the Church Street building, a decision has been taken to move the Department of Labour's offices to a different location. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labour, Ron Collins, who is also at the heart of the Bastille High School saga, has said that the new location will be properly sanitized and cleaned before it is occupied. Additionally, new furniture will be purchased for the staff to use, and old workers reporting ill will be referred to a government-appointed physician. There was speculation that the relocation of the department was imminent when on February 7th the department announced its temporary closure. Dr. Terence Drew and others, including former Health Minister Honourable Marcella Liburd, were harshly critical of Minister Amory and Pierce Collins for forcing staff to remain in the unsafe Church Street building and for suggesting that staff may have been untruthful about complaints of being ill. Drew is also adamant that given the potential risks associated with exposure to high levels of carbon dioxide, workers should stay away until the ministry took steps to safeguard their health and safety. In international developments this morning, according to a group of French scientists who've studied the diets of more than 100,000 people, people who eat highly processed or ultra-processed food are more likely to develop cancer. Ultra-processed foods contain artificial ingredients designed to keep them fresh on shop shelves and to make them more appetizing. These include ready meals, cakes, mass-produced bread, and instant noodles. Neve Barker reports.
What have you eaten today? Because what we innocently consume could be harming us. We've known for several years that certain food, such as processed meat, can increase our risk of disease. But now, French researchers have made a worrying link between ultra-processed food and cancer.
Western diets are characterized by the intake of an average of, it could get to 50% of ultra-processed foods in our diets. Even a healthy product nutritionally can be ultra-processed because it can have food additives or preservatives or food colorant or sweeteners.
So what do dietitians mean by ultra-processed foods, and how do they differ from unprocessed and processed foods?
Unprocessed food, or it might be called raw food, is things like fruit, vegetables that are uncooked, nuts, seeds, those kind of things. Then to take it a notch up, you might have things like milk. And then the next level up from that is things like bread. So bread in the olden days used to be made of 3 things, and now it's made of quite a few more things. So that now fits into a processed, pretty processed product. And then we have things which are just made out of things that you wouldn't necessarily recognise as food at all. So there's an awful lot of ingredients in this. None of them really look like food at all. So that would fit into the ultra-processed category.
Many ultra-processed foods contain artificial ingredients designed to keep them fresh on the shelves and make them look more appetising. They include ready meals, cakes, mass-produced bread and instant noodles.
There's an old piece of advice that you should only eat food that your grandparents would recognise. But the reality of life in the modern age is that fast, cheap and inevitably highly processed food is very, very tempting. So how do we navigate this culinary minefield?
The simple answer: fresh fruit, vegetables, foods that are high in fibre. More research needs to be done to definitively link ultra-processed foods and cancer and rule out other factors. Many consumers of ultra-processed foods are more likely to smoke and be overweight, both key causes of cancer. But the overriding advice is clear. If we must eat processed food, eat it in moderation.
In sport this morning, the Jamaica women's bobsled team are expected to compete at Pyeongchang 2018 in a sled donated by a beer producer. The participation of the Jamaica's first women's Winter Olympic bobsled team was under threat following the departure of coach Sandra Kiriasis. The former Olympic champion said she used her contacts to secure their previous sled and was legally responsible for its use. She was demanding payment in order to allow Jamaica to use it. A Jamaica Bobsled and Skeleton Federation spokeswoman said it was donated by one of Jamaica's more popular beer producers, Red Stripe. Jasmine Fenler Victorian and Carrie Russell are hoping to become the first Jamaican women to compete at the Winter Olympics. 30 years after the Jamaican men who inspired the film Cool Runnings made history in Calgary. It's the latest twist in a long-running saga regarding the equipment used by the women's bobsled team, following the declaration by a Japanese manufacturer that they were considering taking legal action against the JBSF. The Tokyo-based company claimed to have had an arrangement in place whereby they created a bobsleigh for the team free of charge in exchange for it being used during the Olympics. However, it is understood that although the Jamaicans used the sled earlier in the season, they were forced to borrow another via Curiosis's contacts after the manufacturer failed to deliver the craft to Europe in time for the second phase of the World Cup. Using the replacement, they finished 7th at the Winterberg World Cup in Germany in December. The best finish for Jamaica in an Olympics is 14th by the men's four-man lineup at Lillehammer in 1994. And now for a look at this morning's weather forecast. Over St. Kitts and Nevis, we will enjoy partly sunny skies today with a moderate chance for some brief passing showers. Into this afternoon, becoming fair to partly cloudy in general tonight with a slight chance of a brief overnight shower. Seas are moderate to rough with swells reaching 1.5 to 2.4 meters or 5 to 8 feet. Warnings remain in place for small craft operators and sea bathers against rough sea conditions. Winds are east-northeasterly at 14 to 21 miles per hour with higher gusts over open waters. The sea level pressure is 1,019.1 millibars or 30.09 inches. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:36 a.m. and set today at 6:13 p.m. With that look at the weather, we've come to the end of this morning's news presentation. Now for a recap of our top stories. Nationally, police say the man who attacked a tourist on Valentine's Day was tried and convicted the same day. Internationally, a new study has linked processed food to cancer. And in sport, a beer producer has donated a sled to the Jamaica women's bobsleigh team. I've been your presenter this morning, Ebony Brandon. On behalf of the entire team here at Kyssfm, I'd like to wish you a very pleasant day and invite you to stay tuned. Carib Update is next.